The events surrounding the site, known in Shona oral tradition as Makumimavi, the Mountain of Slay, stands as a harrowing, though often underdocumented chapter in the history of colonial violence in Zimbabwe. While official British South Africa company BSAP records downplayed or omitted their own atrocities, the accounts from local communities and the work of early critics like missionary Arthur Shelley Cripps attest to a systematic brutality against indigenous groups like the Mbari clan in the 1890s that can be justly termed a genocide. The Mbari as a core of resistance. Mbari people were not merely residents. They were central force behind the Shona uprising known as the First Chimurenga from 1896 to 1897. In the region now recognized as the Mazoe and Chivu areas. Mbari territory, the traditional Mbari lands were virtual nexus of political and spiritual power. Historical research identifies the Mbari settlement as the hotbed of the First Chimurenga, the nucleus from which the revolt against BSAP rule spread across Mashonaland. The leadership, the area was operational base for key spiritual and military figures of the uprising, including the powerful spirit mediums Mbuya Nehanda, whose medium operated from Mbari territory, and Sekroka Gui, and the brilliant military coordinator Mukwati, whose medium Mudavanu was a son of the late Chief Mbari. Makombe, the reigning Chief Mbari's brother, was nicknamed Chimurenga for his fierce organization and revolt, which successfully besieged settler positions and claimed dozens of colonial lives, including the notorious Native Commissioner Henry Pollard. British response and the Makumimavi massacre. The British response and the Makumimavi massacre. The British response to the coordinated and effective Shona resistance was a brutal campaign of indiscriminate punishment aimed to destroy the will and the lineage of the resisting clans. The massacres perpetrated in the Mbari territory were not acts of war, but a deliberate strategy of annihilation against a population viewed as irredeemably rebellious. Historical accounts confirm that Mbari's sustained resistance was effectively ended by a colonial military action on or around March 1, 1897. In this action, BSAP forces, unable to defeat the insurgents in open combat, resorted to a scorched earth policy targeting the civilian population. Makumimavi Mountain, also known as the Mountain of Slay in Chivu and Keldon, wiping out a clan. The massacres that gave rise to the name Makumimavi, Mountain of Slay, led to the near total wiping out of most of Mbari clan members settled in the area. This was not simply a battle, it was the annihilation of the entire lineage in that locality, effectively dissolving the Mbari chieftaincy and its spiritual authority. Dynamited caves. The final stage of the massacre involved hunting down survivors who had fled to caves for sanctuary. In a stark example of extreme colonial brutality, BSAP forces allegedly dynamited caves, burying alive the remaining people, men, women and children, including members of the Mbari clan who had sought refuge. The legacy of Cripps and the orphaned children. The scale of the atrocities was such that it created a humanitarian catastrophe which directly inspired one of the colonial era's most outspoken critics, the Anglican missionary Arthur Shelley Cripps. Cripps, however, did his share of damage by changing the children's surnames. He took their first names and changed them to surnames. An example is someone called Tom ended up having a surname as Tom. Not all were changed, but this caused lots of disruption as others could not trace their roots. Those who maintained their roots did so by remembering their totem, Shumba Gurundoro. A witness to injustice, Crisp was so shocked by the documented violence of the 1896 to 1897 rebellions that he offered his service to the mission field, determined to challenge the British colonial agenda. His arrival in 1901 was a direct reaction to the massacres of the 1890s, caring for the survivors. Settling at his Maronda Mashano mission near Chivu, in the proximity of the former Mbari lands, became known for defending African rights against BSAP. His work naturally included providing aid and sanctuary to the most vulnerable victims, the orphaned children whose parents had been massacred. This act of compassion cemented his legacy as one who stood against the dehumanizing force of colonial policy, the Mbari genocide, the wholesale destruction of a family, and political units to quell rebellion and claim land remains a powerful symbol of the extreme violence employed by the British South Africa Company to establish its rule in the face of valiant African resistance.